I never thought I'd find myself in a situation that could only be described as the plot of a bad thriller. It began with Mrs. Caldwell, my next-door neighbor, leaning against my doorframe one rainy Tuesday morning, her voice tremulous with urgency. "Emily, dear, you must be careful. There's something odd about those visits every Tuesday. I see a figure slipping in and out of your apartment when you're at work." At the time, I brushed it off as just another one of her wild stories. But that day, something inside me shifted. A nagging curiosity took root, and I couldn't shake it off. That evening, I found myself staring at my own front door, the soft hum of the city outside punctuating my thoughts. Mrs. Caldwell's warning replayed in my mind like a broken record. I grabbed my phone and called my best friend. "Hey, I think I need to install a camera, just to check if someone's really been coming into my apartment," I said, trying to suppress the waver in my voice. "Are you serious, Emily? That sounds paranoid," Jenna replied, but I could sense her concern. "What if it's just your imagination?" "Maybe," I conceded, "but I need to know. I can't shake the feeling that something is off." The next day, I ordered a small hidden camera online. It was a simple device that didn't stand out, perfect for my needs. I spent hours researching how to set it up and adjust the settings. The anticipation of what I might uncover stirred a mix of anxiety and excitement in me. Days turned into weeks. Each Tuesday, I replayed the footage, hoping to find nothing at all. The first few weeks were uneventful, but then, on that particular Tuesday, my heart raced as I witnessed a figure entering my apartment, a woman who looked so familiar. I squinted at the screen, trying to place her, when it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was Lauren, my brother Mark's wife. "Why is she in my apartment?" I whispered to myself, my hands shaking as I paused the video. I watched, breathless, as she moved around my living room, her eyes darting suspiciously. It wasn't until she reached for the cabinet above my kitchen sink that I felt a chill run down my spine. With cautious movements, she pulled out an envelope and tucked it away in the same cabinet, all the while looking around like a thief in the night. My pulse quickened. What on earth could she possibly be hiding in my apartment? That moment felt like a betrayal etched into my very being. I thought I knew my brother and his wife, but this was shocking. I felt a mix of anger and fear swirling inside me, and I knew I had to regain control of the situation. The following days were spent observing. I kept track of my brother's and Lauren's habits. I noted the times they left for work, when they returned home, and how long they were gone. I even began to document the different visitors they had on weekends, all while trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy in my everyday life. But inside, I was unraveling. It was a Friday night when I decided to check my email. As I sifted through the usual junk, one subject line caught my eye: "To my beautiful wife." My hands trembled as I opened the email. Mark's name glowed on the screen. What I read shattered the fragile world I had clung to. Mark had written a love letter to Lauren, describing moments they had shared and their plans for the future, each word laced with betrayal. "Emily, you don't need to worry. Just hold tight. Our lives are about to change." My heart pounded as I read over the lines again. Each word was like a knife piercing through my trust, confirming the whispers of doubt that had haunted me for weeks. I felt simultaneously sick and empowered. This was it. I knew what I had to do. The weekend was spent in a haze. I changed the locks on my apartment, a symbolic reclaiming of my space and security. I couldn't let them think they could walk in uninvited any longer. I felt a rush of adrenaline, a sensation of newfound strength rising within me. "Emily, what's going on?" Jenna exclaimed when I shared the news. "You changed the locks? I didn't know things were that serious." "They are. I have to protect myself. I'm done being passive. It's time to confront them." My voice was steadier than I felt. "No more hiding," I added, a determination igniting my spirit as I prepared to face the truth. I steeled myself for the coming confrontation. I wouldn't allow myself to be a victim any longer. Little did I know that the real battle was just beginning. Tension loomed like storm clouds, ready to unleash their fury. But for once, I was ready to stand my ground, ready to fight for the truth, my dignity, and my freedom. Block 2. As the days passed, every new piece of evidence felt like a knife twisting in my gut. The hidden camera had shown me more than I ever wanted to know. Lauren was in my space, touching my things, moving through my life as if she belonged there. Each time I replayed those clips, my heart raced, a mixture of confusion and anger flooding my senses. I was determined to uncover the truth behind the web of deceit that had ensnared me. One morning, I was sitting in my kitchen, staring blankly at the mound of dirty dishes, when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mark, and for a brief moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he had realized the chaos he had created and was ready to confess. But hope quickly turned to dread as I read his words. "Emily, I know things have been tough, but we can work through this. I just need some time." I felt sick. He had no idea. I was working through this, but it wasn't with him. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing thoughts. I needed more evidence. I needed to understand what was really happening between them. The next few days, I focused on monitoring their movements. I became a passive observer, noting every detail. On Monday afternoons, there was a ritual. Mark would leave his office precisely at 5, and I knew Lauren was the one waiting for him. They would often go to that little coffee shop down the street, the one we used to love. I couldn't help but remember how happy we had been, sharing laughter and dreams. Now, those memories felt like daggers. That Friday, I decided it was time to escalate my plan. I casually ran into her neighbor, Mrs. Caldwell, during her daily walk, and feigned a conversation about the weather. As we chatted, I mentioned the odd occurrences in my apartment, subtly fishing for more information. "Oh dear," she said, her brow furrowing. "You know, I've seen Lauren coming in and out more than once. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to assume anything." "Strange how?" I pressed, my heart racing with each word. "I don't know, sweetie. It just didn't seem right. I thought maybe she was helping you with something. But now, well, with everything else you've said." I felt a surge of bile rise in my throat. How could she call it helping? I was losing my mind, and Lauren was just waltzing into my home as if she had every right. I had to face Mark soon. There was no way I could let this continue. That evening, I decided to confront him. I called him on his way home and told him we needed to talk. My voice was steady, even though I felt as if I were standing on a tightrope. "Can't it wait until tomorrow?" he asked, exhaustion punctuating his voice. "No, Mark. Now. Please." As soon as he walked through the door, I could see the surprise on his face morph into concern. "Emily, what's going on?" "Sit down," I commanded, gesturing toward the couch. My heart thudded in my chest as I took a deep breath. "We need to talk about Lauren." The tension in the room thickened. He glanced away for a moment, assessing his options, probably hoping to find a way out. "What about her?" he said, attempting to sound casual. "She's been coming into my apartment. I have it all on tape, Mark. I know about the envelope she put in my closet." His face paled, the color draining from his cheeks. "Emily, you don't understand. I understand perfectly well. You're cheating on me. I want the truth." He stood, his hands raised in a placating gesture. "It's not what you think, Emily. Then explain it. Explain why I found all this evidence." I could feel the fire in my veins, the adrenaline pushing me to step closer to him as my voice rose. He hesitated. "I didn't want to hurt you." "Mark, you're already hurting me!" I shouted, the room echoing with my pain. Just then, Lauren walked in, her eyes wide with surprise. "What's going on?" The tension was palpable. I wasn't going to back down now. "Do you want to tell her, Mark?" I challenged. "I can explain," he stuttered, his eyes darting between us. "No, let's hear it from you, Mark," I urged, desperate for him to finally own up to what he had done. "Emily, I never meant for it to get this far. It was just a one-time thing. Lauren," my heart shattered at his words. "A one-time thing? The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. "You think that makes it any better?" I whispered, feeling the reality of my world crumble around me. "We can work through this," he said, his voice thick with desperation. "I don't think you understand how betrayal works," I replied, my voice steady but my heart a storm. The confrontation swirled into a heated argument, full of accusations and emotional manipulation. I realized then that I had been disarmed long enough. Later that night, I sat alone on the couch, staring at the walls that felt like they were closing in on me. As tears fell down my cheeks, I understood that this wasn't just about Mark or Lauren. This was about reclaiming my life. I couldn't let their choices define me any longer. I was going to take back control. I was going to change the locks, and I was going to find my strength in this chaos. The day I decided to change the locks felt like the turning point of my life. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across my living room floor. I stood there, fists clenched, going over the morning's events. The hidden camera had shown me everything I needed to know, and now it was time to take control. As I replaced the locks, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that weighed heavily on my heart. It wasn't just Mark, it was Lauren, too, the sister-in-law I had welcomed into my life with open arms. I had trusted her, seen her as family, and here she was, trampling on everything we had built together. Each turn of the screwdriver felt like a small victory, a way to reclaim my space. "Emily?" My best friend Sarah's voice broke through my thoughts as she stepped into the apartment, her eyes darting around. "What's going on? You look intense." "I'm changing the locks," I said, my voice steady but the storm inside. "Changing the locks? Why? Did something happen?" She stepped closer, concern etched on her face. I took a deep breath. "I found out some things about Mark and Lauren." "What things?" Sarah's brows knitted together as she crossed her arms. I hesitated, deciding how to reveal the truth. "I installed a camera. Lauren's been coming into my apartment when I'm not home. I found a letter in my cabinet from Mark to her." The shock in Sarah's eyes was palpable. "Oh my God, Em, have you confronted them?" "Not yet," I admitted. "I'm still gathering the strength, but I will." "Are you going to tell Mark that you know?" she asked, her voice softening. "Absolutely." I felt the fire within me grow. I can't let this continue. I need to confront them, to show them that I won't roll over like some doormat. Sarah nodded slowly, her expression shifting from shock to understanding. "I'm here for you, whatever you need. But just be careful. They might try to turn this around on you. You know how manipulative Mark can be." "Yeah, I know," I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "But I'm done being the victim." That evening, as the shadows deepened into night, I sat at my kitchen table. The silence was thick, almost suffocating, but I needed to think. I replayed every detail from the video. Lauren slipping into my apartment, glancing around nervously, as if she knew what she was doing was wrong. The envelope she'd left behind felt like a haunting specter in my mind. The next day, I did something I had been putting off, reaching out to my lawyer. With each word exchanged, I said, my resolve strengthening. We scheduled a meeting to discuss my case, and as I hung up the phone, a sense of liberation washed over me. But it wasn't just the legal battle ahead that consumed me. It was the confrontation with Mark and Lauren that loomed closer, like storm clouds gathering in the distance. "Are you ready for them?" Sarah asked me later that week as we sat in a nearby cafe. "Honestly, no," I admitted, swirling my coffee nervously. "What if they act like nothing is wrong? What if they deny everything?" "They will try to gaslight you," Sarah warned, her voice low but firm. "You have to stick to your guns." I know. I just keep thinking about how we were all so happy together. Family dinners, holidays. It feels so surreal. "People can hide behind masks for so long," Sarah said. "But you've seen the truth now, and you can't unsee it. You have to hold on to that." The day of the confrontation arrived, and my heart raced as I put on my blazer. I chose my outfit carefully, something that made me feel powerful. I could almost hear Sarah's words echoing in my head. You have to be strong. When Mark and Lauren arrived at my apartment, the atmosphere was thick with tension. I could see Lauren's eyes darting nervously, while Mark was eerily calm, a mask of indifference plastered on his face. "Hey, Em, what's going on?" he asked, feigning innocence as he stepped inside. "Let's cut the small talk," I said, my voice steady. "We need to talk about your little visits with Lauren." Mark's expression shifted, and for a moment, I could see the flash of guilt before he masked it again. "What are you talking about?" I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. "I saw the footage. You both thought I wouldn't find out? The letter, Lauren, the secrets? It's pathetic." Lauren's face turned pale, and she opened her mouth to speak before I held up my hand. "No, don't even try to deny it. I know everything." "Emily, please," Mark began, his voice low. "You've misunderstood. Lauren and I—" "No," I cut him off, feeling stronger with each word. "You've betrayed me. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's betrayal, plain and simple. I deserve better than this." A silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the sound of my heart pounding in my chest. I had confronted my demons, and for the first time, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. "Maybe you should just let it go," Lauren finally said, her voice quaking slightly. "Mark is still your brother." "And you are still my sister-in-law," I replied sharply. "But that doesn't give you a free pass to destroy my trust. This is between us now. You can pretend this is fine, but I won't play your games anymore." With that, the confrontation shifted. As we exchanged heated words, I could feel the weight of my past slowly lifting. This wasn't just about Mark and Lauren anymore. It was about me reclaiming my life. I would rise from this betrayal, stronger than ever. Each word I uttered felt like a step toward the freedom I craved, and with every breath, I was ready to face whatever came next. I took a deep breath as I walked into the small courtroom. The air felt heavy, almost electric, charged with an anticipation that twisted my stomach into knots. I had spent the last few weeks gathering evidence, meticulously putting together a case that would reveal the truth about Mark and Lauren. I felt ready, yet a part of me was still reeling from the betrayal. "Hey, you've got this," my friend Mia whispered as she squeezed my hand, her voice low and steady. She had been my rock through this storm, encouraging me every step of the way. "Thanks," I replied, though I felt anything but ready. My gaze drifted to the front of the room, where Mark sat with a smug look on his face. Next to him, Lauren was fiddling with her phone, her nails tapping nervously on the screen. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me. No more hiding, no more silence. The judge entered, and the room quieted. I straightened my back, trying to absorb the power of the moment. This was my chance to expose their lies, to reclaim my life. As the proceedings unfolded, the lawyer for the opposing side began his narrative, painting a picture of me as the angry ex-wife who couldn't accept her husband's choices. "Emily is simply desperate to hold on to the past," he argued. "She's projecting her insecurities onto my clients." I clenched my fists. This was it. I would not let them twist my story. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up, gripping the edge of the table to steady myself. "That's not true," I said, my voice steady. "I'm here because I deserve the truth. I deserve justice." The lawyer blinked, clearly taken aback by my confidence. I continued, detailing the evidence I had collected, the emails that screamed betrayal, and the video footage that shattered the facade of their relationship. As I spoke, I could see Mark's expression change from smugness to irritation. I felt a rush of satisfaction wash over me. "Your Honor," I said, addressing the judge directly, "I am not here to blame anyone for their choices. I seek acknowledgement for the pain caused by their betrayal. I deserve to move on from this, not be painted as the villain." After I finished my testimony, the lawyer for Mark and Lauren attempted to discredit my claims, but found himself struggling against the weight of the evidence I had provided. The judge listened intently, her expression unreadable as the tide began to shift in my favor. "Let's talk about that email," I said, my voice gaining strength. "The one Mark sent to Lauren, where he referred to me as a problem that needed to be dealt with. You see, that's not just infidelity, it's manipulation, planning behind my back. Mark shot me a furious look. That's taken out of context, he blurted, but his outburst felt desperate, like the last gasp of a drowning man. Context? I challenged. The context is that I was living a lie built by someone I trusted. I believe I deserve more than just excuses. The tension in the room thickened, and I felt a renewed sense of empowerment. The truth wouldn't be buried this time. The judge finally spoke, her voice breaking through the chaos. I believe we need to take a short recess to gather further evidence regarding this email chain. As the room slowly emptied, I caught a glimpse of Lauren trying to comfort Mark, her eyes wide with panic. "What are we going to do?" she hissed. "Just shut up," he snapped back, his frustration spilling over. I turned away, feeling a twinge of vindication. They were cracking under the pressure, and it felt so freeing. When the judge returned, I could see the mental gears turning in her mind. I've reviewed the evidence presented, and I find that there is sufficient cause to rule against the claims made by Mr. Turner and Miss Smith. My heart raced as the judge continued. "Emily, while this is a difficult and emotional matter, you are clearly the wronged party here. The court recognizes your suffering and grants you the opportunity to heal and move forward free from these manipulations." A wave of relief washed over me, but it was quickly followed by anger at the thought of how Mark and Lauren had betrayed me. I had thought I was the one who was weak, yet here I stood, victorious in asserting my truth. As I left the courtroom, Mia wrapped her arm around my shoulders, a beaming smile on her face. "You did it, Emily. You stood up for yourself and you won." I let the warmth of her words sink in. The battle was not just about the courtroom. It was about standing tall against the emotional scars they had left behind. I felt lighter, a weight lifted off my shoulders. I would use this energy to help other women reclaim their lives, just as I was starting to reclaim mine. As I stood in the courtroom, the air thick with tension, I could almost feel the weight of my past pressing down on me. This was my moment, a culmination of pain, betrayal, and a fierce desire for justice that had brought me here. I had spent countless nights wrestling with my thoughts, replaying every moment of deceit that Mark and Lauren had thrust upon me. Now it was my turn to speak, to reclaim the narrative that had been stolen from me. The judge, a stern woman with sharp glasses perched on her nose, looked over her desk at me. "Miss Emily, you may present your case." Took a deep breath, my heart pounding as I recalled the hidden camera footage that had exposed the truth. "Your Honor, I stand before you not only as a wife betrayed, but as a woman seeking justice," I began, my voice steady but raw. What I discovered was more than just infidelity. It was a complete disregard for my trust, my love, and everything I thought we built together. I glanced over at Mark, who sat slumped in his chair, a defeated expression on his face. I felt a surge of anger mixed with relief. This was the man who had once promised to love and cherish me, only to betray those vows with my sister-in-law. I never imagined that my family could hurt me in such a profound way, I continued, fixing my gaze on Lauren, who was sitting with her head down, avoiding my stare. What hurts the most is that these betrayals came from those I loved. As I shared my story, I could see the effect it had on the room. There were whispers, empathy, disbelief, and sometimes even pity. But in that vulnerability, I found strength. I described how I had stumbled upon the hidden camera footage, how the sight of them together had shattered my world. The audience listened intently as I recounted the moments that followed, the confusion, the anger, and the painful decision to confront both of them. Mark's attorney, a slick man with a too-perfect smile, tried to downplay my evidence. "Your Honor," he interjected, "Miss Emily is simply using emotional rhetoric to sway the jury. What we have here is a personal dispute, not a legal one." But I was ready for him. If betrayal is personal, then it must also be legal when it comes to the emotional distress it causes, I countered. You can't just brush aside the pain that comes from being deceived by those you trust most. Your Honor, Mark's attorney replied, this is more about her inability to accept the reality of a failed relationship. I shook my head, frustration rising. This isn't just about a failed relationship. It's about trust, respect, and the vows we made. It's about the emotional scars that linger long after the truth is revealed. The judge nodded, seeming to appreciate my fervor. I could see Mark fidgeting, perhaps regretting the choices he had made, or possibly just wishing he could sink into his chair. I didn't care. It was time for me to stand tall. With each passing moment, I shared more details, the late nights, the whispers, the small lies that had built up over time. I revealed how I had meticulously observed their habits, collecting evidence like a detective seeking justice for a crime committed against my heart. The email from Mark, the one that confirmed my worst fears, was a weapon I held tightly in my mind, even though it wasn't physically present in that room. I have proof, I declared, feeling my voice rise with confidence. I deserve to be heard, and I deserve justice. As the hearing continued, I felt the judgment of the courtroom shifting in my favor. There was support, and with each nod from the audience, I could feel the validation of my struggle. I wasn't just speaking for myself anymore. I was speaking for all the women who had been pushed aside, silenced by shame and betrayal. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. The judge leaned back, her expression inscrutable. I have reviewed the evidence presented, she began, her voice firm, and I find the actions of Mr. Mark and Miss Lauren to be not only damaging, but indicative of emotional manipulation that cannot be overlooked. My heart raced as I processed her words, the room still around me as if time had slowed. Miss Emily, you are entitled to compensation for the emotional distress you have suffered. This court recognizes the depth of your experience. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I fought against them. This was my victory, an acknowledgement of my pain and a recognition that no one should ever be treated in such a way. As I walked out of the courtroom, I felt different, empowered, yes, but also free. In that moment, I realized that my journey didn't end with this victory. I wanted to give back, to help other women reclaim their strength and find their own voices after betrayal. The world outside felt lighter. My heart was no longer burdened by secrets. Had faced my fears, confronted my past, and emerged victorious. And now it was time to help others do the same. As I stepped out of the courtroom, the cool air hit my face, a stark contrast to the heated emotions swirling inside me just moments before. I took a deep breath, savoring the sensation of freedom. My heart raced, not just from the adrenaline, but from the newfound power surging through me. I had fought for my truth, and now it was mine to hold. "Emily," came a voice from behind me. I turned to see my friend Jane rushing toward me, her expression a blend of concern and relief. "I saw the whole thing. You were incredible." "Thanks, Jane." I felt a warmth spread through me at her support. "I can't believe it's finally over." "I know," she said, shaking her head. "You've been through so much. What are you going to do now?" I smiled, realizing that for the first time in a long while, I had a choice. I want to help other women. I want to make sure they know they're not alone in this. "Absolutely," Jane agreed, her eyes shining with pride. "You should start a group or something. Share your story. Empower them." As we walked down the steps of the courthouse, I thought about all the women who had reached out to me during this ordeal, friends, strangers, even acquaintances. They had shared their own stories of betrayal, of feeling trapped in circumstances they never wanted. I felt an intensity of purpose filling me. I could be a beacon for them. But first, I needed to reclaim my own space. It was time to confront the chaos Mark and Lauren had left in their wake. I headed back to my apartment, determined to take control. The walls that once felt safe now echoed with whispers of deceit. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, the silence overwhelming. After taking a moment to collect myself, I grabbed my phone, dialing a locksmith. "Yes, I'd like to change the locks," I said firmly. "Today, please." Within the hour, the sturdy click of the new lock reassured me. It felt like sealing off memories of Mark, of his lies or the betrayal that had seeped into my home. As I paced my apartment, my mind swirled with images of those moments when I'd felt the most vulnerable. I recalled the countless nights I spent questioning myself, doubting my worth. But now, the contours of my life were starting to reshape. I needed to create a space that was entirely my own, unmarred by their treachery. With the sun beginning to set, casting a golden hue across my living room, my phone buzzed once more. It was a text from my sister, Sarah. "Can we talk? I need to understand what happened with Mark." I hesitated for a moment. After everything, I knew this conversation wouldn't be easy, but Sarah deserved an explanation. So I replied, "Sure, let's meet at the cafe." When we arrived, I could see the concern etched on her face. "Emily, I can't imagine what you went through, but I want you to know I'm here for you." "Thank you, Sarah." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my words pressing against my chest. It's been hard to process everything. I thought I knew Mark, but he betrayed you, she finished softly, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "How can I help? I want to start a support group for women who've been through what I've been through. I want them to know they're not alone, that they can reclaim their lives." "That sounds amazing." Her eyes sparkled, filled with pride and encouragement. "You've always been a fighter, Emily. This will make a real difference for so many." The idea of leading such a group filled me with excitement, but I also felt the gravity of the task ahead. I need to gather stories, resources, and maybe even find a space. "I'll help you," Sarah said decisively. "We'll make it happen together." As we sipped our coffee and brainstormed ideas, I felt a sense of camaraderie and purpose unlike anything I had experienced before. For the first time since the betrayal, I was no longer a victim. I was a survivor, ready to help others rise. The weeks flew by as I worked to build the support group. Women began to come forward, sharing their stories with unwavering courage. Each encounter fueled my resolve, transforming pain into a collective strength. One late afternoon, as I finished setting up a meeting space, I received a message from one of the women in the group, Lisa. "Emily, I got out. I finally left him." Tears pricked at my eyes as I read her words. I replied immediately, "I'm so proud of you. You're so strong." In that moment, I understood the true essence of healing, helping others rise from the ashes, standing together in solidarity against the flames of betrayal. I looked around the room, filled with women from all walks of life, each of us shaking off the weight of the past. Together, we were lifting one another higher, and I knew this was just the beginning. The freedom I had fought for wouldn't just be mine, it would be ours. As I stood in the small community center, I could feel the weight of the room pressing down on me. Women of all ages filled the chairs, their faces a mixture of uncertainty and hope. It was my first meeting leading the support group, a step I was both excited and terrified to take. I had spent the last few months collecting my thoughts, figuring out how to share my story without drowning in the pain of it. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach. "I know this isn't easy, but I want you to know that you're not alone. We're here to support one another, to share our stories, and to find strength together." A woman in her 40s, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, raised her hand hesitantly. "I'm Karen," she said softly. "I just found out my husband has been seeing someone else. I feel so lost." My heart ached for her. "I understand, Karen. I felt lost too when I discovered my husband was betraying me. It's a whirlwind of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion. But the important thing is that you're here. You're taking the first step toward reclaiming your life." As I continued to speak, more women shared their experiences. Some had been betrayed by partners, while others faced deception from close friends or family. Each story resonated with me, weaving together a tapestry of pain and resilience. I could see the flicker of understanding in their eyes, the recognition that they weren't alone in their struggles. After we shared our stories, I introduced a simple exercise, writing down what we wanted to reclaim in our lives. I handed out pens and paper, encouraging everyone to dig deep. As I glanced around the room, I saw furrowed brows and scribbling hands, women pouring their thoughts onto the pages. It was cathartic. When we reconvened, I noticed Karen looking a bit lighter. I wrote that I want to reclaim my sense of self-worth, she said, her voice gaining strength. I've let my husband's betrayal define me for too long. There was a wave of agreement. Yeah, a younger woman named Lisa chimed in, her eyes bright. I want to reclaim my trust in people. I feel so wary now. I nodded, embracing their courage. You're not defined by what they did to you. This is about finding your footing again. It will take time, but every step you take is a step toward healing. Let's create a safe space where we can build each other up. By the end of the meeting, I felt a shift, not just in the room, but within myself. I had stepped into my role as a leader, a guide, for others who had faced similar betrayals. As the women began to gather their things, I felt a sense of warmth enveloping us. We were a community, forged in our shared experiences. After the meeting, Karen approached me. I can't believe how different I feel just from talking. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being brave enough to share, I replied, my heart swelling. Your strength is inspiring, and together we'll empower each other. As the weeks rolled into months, our group flourished. Women began to find their voices, sharing not just their pain, but also their triumphs, small victories that felt monumental. Some started new careers, while others took up hobbies they had long abandoned. We laughed, cried, and built bonds that would last beyond the walls of our community center. One session, I decided to invite a local therapist to speak about emotional healing. The room was buzzing with anticipation. Watched as the women leaned forward, eager for guidance. After her talk, we opened the floor for questions, and I was amazed at their willingness to dive deeper into their healing journey. How do I know when I'm truly ready to trust again? Lisa asked, her eyes wide with hope and fear. The therapist smiled gently. Trust is built in small steps. It begins with trusting yourself again, recognizing your worth, and understanding your boundaries. It's a process, and there's no rush. You'll know when you're ready. It's about feeling safe and secure within yourself first. I could see the light of understanding dawning in Lisa's eyes. It resonated with all of us. Trusting ourselves was the first step in rebuilding our lives. As the months passed, I found joy in our gatherings. I started to plan events where we could celebrate our journeys. A small retreat, a potluck, and even a book club focused on empowerment. Each event reminded us of our strength and spirit. I had transformed from a woman shattered by betrayal into someone fighting for herself and others, reclaiming every lost piece. One evening, as I closed the community center doors, I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past lift as I stepped into the cool night air. I had found my purpose, helping others through their darkest times. In doing so, I had healed myself, surrounded by a circle of incredible women ready to rise together.